Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Market Targets. Alrighty, so let's get ready for what the week has in store for us. Honestly, love the way the markets are looking like this week. These type of structure that will go on now with the pairs I chose for the week is a type of structure I look at and try to capitalize on the most. I see very clean structure on most of the pairs I chose. And this week is one of those weeks where you should execute and capitalize as much as possible, just because I see that there's not a lot of news this week and the structure is good. So that means that it should be a trend friendly type of week. In that case, this is the type of weeks that we should capitalize on the best pairs possible. For starters, this week I'm actually going to switch it up a bit. I'm actually going to go straight into gold. Gold is one of the pairs I always look at every single week. I never mention it, but I always have my support and resistance set up. And this week it's looking very, very nice. I am not one of the people to predict where gold is supposed to go. It's more like a futures type of trade, to be honest. You just go with what the market tells you, not with a set idea beforehand. And in this case, that's the reason why I'm actually going to be setting up two alerts on the smaller time frames for gold. So I set an alert on the 4 hour time frame right here to see if it does break bullish. And if it does break bullish on the 4 hour, that means I'll probably look for a buy or to see if it's just manipulation and the market truly wants to go down, but it just wants to grab anyone that wants to get in early on the action. Or I also have on the 2 hour time frame, it is bullish, and I set an alert on this structure right here to go bearish. So if it does go below the structure and shift is bearish, I'm most likely going to be entering this in a short, just because the short is honestly what it's looking like it's going to be. But since I usually do not trade gold, I do not get ahead of myself. I want to see how the market moves, and I'm going to be more into it as the weeks go on. Next up, I'm going to go to EuroCAD. EuroCAD, last week I took an L on this pair just because it actually just freaking manipulated the crap out of me on the 4 hour. It shifted structure on the 4 hour and it retraced all the way down. I didn't wait for the retracement. I thought that it was just going to go up, since on the structure on the 2 hour it looked pretty nice for it to just go up and do the move it did on Friday. But it is what it is. This week I'm looking for that long again once more. I think it's a bit more ready this week than it was last week in order to go long. So let's wait and see. Next up is AUD CHF. I'm looking for a short. This is actually the first short I'm ever looking for in this pair, which is actually crazy. I only trade longs on AUD CHF. If you can see here, going all the way down, I pretty much have a lot of wins, a lot of partials, and like one loss on AUD CHF. And this week is going to be a different week. I'm actually going to go aim for it to go to the downside. Right now, it's retracing perfectly on some resistance. So the 4 hour, the 2 hour doing its thing. Let me see the 1 hour, the 1 hour as well. 30-minute currently is bullish. So I'll be looking at that shift in order to look for an entry on this pair. Next up is GBP CHF. GBP CHF, I was very patient on last week on this pair, to be honest. And I'm glad I was patient because the first day it did do a perfect move, but since there was no shifts of trend in any of the lower time frames, I was not confident in entering this trade. I like to have a fresh shift of trend as soon as the week starts in order to even enter a trade. And in this case, it did it on Friday, I believe, on the 30-minute of the previous week. And since it did that, I did not want to enter, but it did do a good long right here, where pretty much you could enter pretty much right down here. And you would have gotten a good two to three risk to reward, so that's pretty great. But not my type of entry. Didn't give me what I wanted in order to enter, so I didn't enter. I'm glad I didn't because it's setting up a great opportunity to go long this week. Honestly, it just did the shift on Friday to the downside and then back to the upside on the 4 hour and on the 2 hour. Honestly, this is going to be one of those pairs that I'm going to be looking at very hard tonight on the first daily candlestick. Next up is Euro CHF. Euro CHF also want a long on this one. This is looking really, really nice. It did a great shift on Friday, and it might actually be giving us the green light for us to enter really early on this week. I want this pair to definitely go long. The moment the 30-minute is bearish, yes it is. So I'll put an alert right around here. This shift is to upside, and I'll be pretty confident in entering this trade. Next up is USD CHF. USD CHF, I wanted to go long last week, but I wanted to wait for the retracement. The retracement did not start happening until Thursday's candlestick, and then it did a great pin bar on the daily candlestick Friday. This is a great indication that it does want to go up, but I will be setting an alarm right here off the 2 hour. And if the 2 hour goes to the upside, definitely going to be looking for another long on this pair. So pretty much right now I'm looking for everything long except for ADCHF. So let me start separating those so I know what I'm looking to go short and long. And next up is USD CAD. USD CAD is one of those pairs right now that I'm actually trying to get a counter trend trade on. Not looking for support and resistance too much on this. I'm just looking for more of a shift of trend on this type of pair right here in order to get the move to the downside for a retracement, because I see that there is a lot of space to be working with here. And you have a lot of space, to be honest. You see here, it's a lot of space. If you go down to the weekly, yeah, it's itching for a retracement. If I do get the retracement signal and the shift of trend on the 4 hour, which for me, the 4 hour is going to be the most important one out of all these pairs, out of all these time frames in order to enter, just because the smaller time frames already did the shift to the downside pretty much, except for the 1 hour. The 1 hour shifted back bullish here. So let me set actually 2 alarms on this just so I could be on top of my game. And it's also a 30-minute shift of structure. So if all my smaller time frames go bearish, that means that the trend most likely wants to start its retracement, and I want to catch that retracement on USD CAD. So we're gonna wait and see on this pair. Next up is Euro USD. Euro USD, looking for the completion of this retracement, to be honest, on this resistance in order to keep going to the downside. So if you go over here, daily is pretty much the perfect time frame in order to look at the structure. Once you see this actually rejecting and start to becoming a bearish trend, that's when you start looking for an entry. So let me go over here and go down to the 2 hour and 1 hour. 2 hour over here shifted bullish, so I'd say that down here, which for me is a bit too down to be honest, is where you would start looking to be interested in a short. But for me, that's a long way to go, to be honest. So I'll be looking to see if it does shift to the downside and does a bit of a pullback in order to get a better risk to reward entry on this pair to go short. So going short on Euro USD. Alrighty, and CHF JPY, also looking for a short on this one. This pair in particular, it's very wicky. If you see a lot of wicks on the daily, that means the smaller time frames have a lot of up and down structure. You see here, it tends to go up and down on the 4 hour a lot, but it does go with the trend. So here, for example, the 4 hour is bullish, and most likely if I were to enter a short, I would not wait for the 4 hour to go bullish. I'd actually focus on the 2 hour time frame and below in order to enter. So I'll put alert right here in order to get this one in the works for a short. Next up is CAD JPY. So CAD JPY, want a short on it. Let's go to the daily time frame. Looking very nice. Wants to reject this resistance, and I do get that resistance from the daily time frame, and we shift structure on the 4 hour to the downside. I'll be looking for a short on this trade. This trade is actually looking very, very nice for tonight. So I'll keep a lookout. This, my least favorite pair out of absolutely all the ones I chose. I want this to go to the upside. I've seen it bounce off of this support plenty of times in the past, about 3 times in the past in order to go to the upside. So I want this to do the same exact thing. But we're gonna see how the structure works. So sometimes it doesn't like to break onto the structure and create a new lower low in order to go back to the upside and shift the trend to the upside, and obviously get the signal to enter a long on this trade. So I'm gonna be careful on this trade because I have missed out on a lot of money in this particular trade just because of that reason, and I do not want that to happen this time. Right now, the 2 hour is bearish, so I'm gonna be setting up an alert right here on the 2 hour time frame to go to the upside. If this does break, I will enter this trade on a long. That means the smaller time frames from the 2 hours to the 15-minute are most likely going to be bullish as well, and that's going to be the reason for me to take this trade to the upside. It is a counter trend trade, so this is a riskier trade to take. That's why it's going to be at the bottom of my list. Right now, that is a long, so I'm going to be switching it up over here where the USD CHF is at. I'm going to give you guys a quick recap on what we're looking at for the week. And let's start off with the gold. Gold, I'm looking for a short or a long, depending on what the market does. I'm looking for a long on EuroCAD, GBP CHF, Euro CHF, USD CHF, and NZD JPY. And I'm looking for shorts on AUD CHF, USD CAD, Euro USD, CHF JPY, and CAD JPY. So those are the pairs that I'm interested in trading for the week. So let's see how the week goes, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in.